Water doesn't show up in a home valuation. It doesn't appear on a mortgage application. It isn't in the listing. But right now, in 10 of America's fastest-growing cities, the water is disappearing, and the prices haven't figured that out yet. The prices assume the water keeps coming, but when reality catches up, it's going to trigger a financial bloodbath for these 10 cities. Number 10. Austin, Texas. Lake Travis hasn't been at full capacity since July 2019. It's currently sitting at 74%, according to the Lower Colorado River Authority. That's not a drought anomaly. That's the baseline. During the period, Austin added hundreds of thousands of residents and declared itself the new capital of American ambition. The city sold a lifestyle built on the Highland Lakes, waterfront homes, boat docks, reservoir views. Texas A&M researchers have warned that a 1950s-scale drought, which lasted 7 years, could push the regional supply to a critical threshold within a decade. Austin didn't exist at its current size during the 1950s drought. The lakes did, and they nearly emptied then too. Picture a boat dock on Lake Travis that's now stranded on dry rock 30 feet above the waterline. The house behind it hasn't dropped in price yet. It will. The next city isn't worried about a half-empty lake. It's been in federal court over water rights for 30 years and still doesn't have a deal. Number 9. Atlanta, Georgia. Georgia declared a statewide Level 1 drought in 2025. Lake Lanier, the reservoir that supplies Metro Atlanta, hit a 6-year low in January 2024, sitting nearly 7 feet below full pool. The Atlanta Regional Commission expects the Metro to add 2.9 million more residents by 2050. Atlanta's water strategy is a lawsuit. Georgia, Alabama, and Florida have been litigating rights to the same river basin since the 1990s. Combined legal fees across all parties have exceeded $100 million. The U.S. Supreme Court has intervened multiple times. No final resolution. Atlanta keeps issuing building permits anyway. Picture a subdivision going up north of Alpharetta, priced at $600,000 per unit, its water supply contingent on a court case that has outlasted 3 governors and is nowhere near settled. We're heading west. The next city gave up on rivers and surface water entirely. It just drills. Number 8. San Antonio, Texas. Over 90% of San Antonio's water supply comes from the Edwards Aquifer, a single underground source. According to the U.S. Geological Survey, it's been on a long-term downward trajectory as the city's growth outpaces natural recharge rates. The Edwards Aquifer Authority operates a trigger system. When monitoring wells drop below certain levels, mandatory cuts engage automatically. Stage 1 through Stage 4. San Antonio has hit Stage 4 before. That's the stage where most non-essential water use is prohibited. There's no vote, no public hearing. The well drops, the cuts happen. Here's what makes this uniquely dangerous for homeowners. There's no visible signal, no bathtub ring, no cracked lakebed you can photograph. The crisis arrives as a water bill and a restriction notice, not as a landscape change you can see from the highway. The next city's problem is the opposite. You can see it from the highway, from downtown, and from space. Number 7. Salt Lake City, Utah. 800 square miles of Great Salt Lake lakebed are now exposed. The Utah Division of Water Resources estimates 2.66 million people live downwind of that exposed sediment. University of Utah research published in 2024 found arsenic and lithium concentrations in the lakebed dust that exceed EPA residential screening levels. A sitting Republican state lawmaker called it an environmental nuclear bomb. This isn't a future risk. Dust events are already happening. Air quality warnings tied to lakebed particulates are already being issued. The state has committed over $1 billion to restore water levels. Most researchers say it falls short of what's needed. Picture buying a home in Salt Lake City in 2021. The Wasatch Front, affordable by coastal standards, booming economy, outdoor recreation. Now you're watching air quality alerts go up on days when the wind comes from the west. The next city tried to buy its way out of its water problem, spent $1 billion, solved 10% of it. Number 6. San Diego, California. San Diego imports somewhere between 85 and 90% of its water. It holds junior water rights on the Colorado River, which means when cuts are triggered, San Diego is at the front of the line to lose supply. The San Diego County Water Authority spent over $1 billion building the Carlsbad desalination plant to reduce that exposure. It covers roughly 10% of the region's water needs. The other 90% still comes from the Colorado River. Desalinated water costs nearly double what imported water costs, and that difference shows up directly in water bills, already among the highest in the country. They spent $1 billion, raised rates, and still depend on the same collapsing river for 9/10 of their supply. Congratulations on the 10%. The next city doesn't have junior water rights. It has a different problem. It's a desert with 12 million people and both of its water sources failing at once. Number 5. Los Angeles, California. Los Angeles imports roughly 85% of its water. The State Water Project, dependent on Sierra Nevada snowpack, has seen allocations cut to as low as 5% of requested amounts in recent drought years. The Colorado River Aqueduct, the second lifeline, is governed by operating rules that expired in 2026 and are now being renegotiated across 7 states. The Metropolitan Water District of Southern California has already declared a water shortage emergency and placed millions of residents on mandatory outdoor watering restrictions. 12 million people, 85% imported, both supply lines under simultaneous pressure. Housing prices that treat the water supply as a permanent given. At some point, those assumptions get repriced. That's the bloodbath the title is referring to. The next city has 90% dependence, and its reservoir is a third full. Number 4, Las Vegas, Nevada. Lake Mead was at 33% capacity in late 2025 per the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation. By April 2026, the surface had dropped to around 1,060 feet, 5 feet lower than the same point in 2025. The operating rules governing water allocation for the entire Colorado River system, 40 million people, expired in January 2026. Nobody has agreed on replacements yet. New water features on the Las Vegas Strip are already banned under current restrictions. The Southern Nevada Water Authority spent $1.5 billion drilling a third intake pipe into the deepest accessible water remaining in the lake. The bathtub ring above Lake Mead, the white mineral crust showing where the water used to sit, is over 140 feet above the current surface. That's not a drought. That's a structural decline that took 25 years to build and shows no signs of reversing. Las Vegas will tell you it's the most water-efficient city in the Southwest. That may be true. The lake is still at a third of capacity and dropping. Number 3, Denver, Colorado. Denver water draws more than half its supply from the Colorado River Basin, the same system that just lost its governing framework and is being renegotiated now. Colorado's trans-basin diversions, the infrastructure that moves water from the western slope of the Rockies across to the Front Range, could face curtailment under the new rules if junior rights are targeted. Agriculture consumes roughly 90% of Colorado's water. Municipalities get about 7%. When there's a shortage, water rights seniority determines who gets cut. The lower Colorado Basin snowpack came in at 23% of median in early 2025, according to USDA data. Denver Water has committed over $500 million to expand reservoir storage to compensate for declining snowpack. You don't spend $500 million on emergency storage if you think the snow is coming back. Denver's home prices nearly doubled in the last decade. The snowpack that feeds the river feeding the city did not. Number 2, Miami, Florida. Miami is surrounded by water and running out of the kind that doesn't kill you. The Biscayne Aquifer is the sole drinking water source for 2.5 million Miami-Dade residents and supplies 98% of South Florida's public water. It's being contaminated from below by saltwater intrusion, ocean water pushing inland underground as sea levels rise. A 2025 USGS report documented that by 2022, the saltwater front had advanced up to 0.8 kilometers further inland than it was in 2018. About 70% of Miami-Dade County sits below 1.8 meters above sea level. There is no geological buffer here. When saltwater reaches a well field, that well field is gone. You don't pump it out and start over. The Army Corps of Engineers is spending hundreds of millions trying to hold the line with underground barriers. NOAA projects up to 2 feet of sea level rise in the region by 2050. Miami real estate is priced as a long-term hold. The aquifer contamination maps suggest a different timeline. Number 1. Phoenix, Arizona. In June 2023, Arizona halted new housing construction across large parts of the Phoenix metro because the groundwater isn't there. The Arizona Department of Water Resources concluded the region faces a projected shortfall of 4.9 million acre-feet over the next 100 years. Around 80,000 approved housing units were put in immediate jeopardy, according to the Kyle Center for Water Policy at Arizona State University. That's not future development. That's already permitted homes that now have no guaranteed water supply. In early 2025, a Maricopa County judge blocked the state's enforcement rule on procedural grounds. Developers took that as a win. The aquifer didn't recover. Arizona still holds the most junior Colorado River rights of any state in the basin, and the 2026 renegotiation of that allocation is happening in real time. The Central Arizona Project, the 336-mile canal that delivers Colorado River water to Phoenix, has already seen its deliveries cut. Picture Buckeye, Goodyear, Queen Creek, new streets, fresh paint, the only sub-$400,000 homes left in the Phoenix metro. People bought there because it was the one place the math still worked. Below them, an aquifer the state says can't support what's already approved. Above them, a legal fight over whether the state was allowed to say that. The water ran out. The construction hadn't. That gap between what's been sold and what can actually be sustained is the bloodbath.